Hello everybody, my name is Josue Guedes and welcome to Chair of Truth. Today I have a very exciting video that I want to explore with you guys. We're going to be doing philosophy today. But I want to do philosophy from a very different vantage point. Usually philosophy on YouTube is done by explaining to you what philosophy is, giving you the many different thoughts in philosophy, and then kind of concluding with, what do you guys think? I don't want to do that. I am going to give you guys the sort of methodology that I use when doing philosophy. So there's going to be a couple things that I already kind of take for granted, which is okay. I just want to do something different. So instead of just kind of pretending like I don't have a position already in philosophy, I want to just give you guys my position so that you can see what philosophy looks like in action. So let's begin. Let's see where this goes, and hopefully it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's begin. A couple things before we start. I want to recommend some books so that you guys can kind of wrap your minds around how I'm thinking, why I'm saying what I'm saying. I think it's important to know who's influencing me before I begin talking, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm just coming up with everything on my own. That would make me a liar and an imposter, and I don't want to do that. So let me kind of give some recommendation of the books that I'm using that have influenced me. Obviously, I can't show you every book that has influenced my thoughts. I'm only giving you guys like the tip of the iceberg of my own, really, philosophy. So, again, I'm going to bring this guy into the picture, the early church father, Pseudo Dionysius. So, he is going to be very influential, probably in the second video that I make. Amazing, what do you call him, a theologian? But to me, he's more of a philosopher. So Pseudo Dionysius is one that I think you guys should look into when it comes to this video. Another one is Plato. Plato is going to be extremely big in this video, especially this one, more than the other one. But you'll see hints of Plato in the next video. But Plato is definitely someone that I'm going to be using in this video a lot to kind of give you a grasp of how I do philosophy as well. And a couple more here would be From Plato to Platonism by Lord Gerson. Amazing guy. I love him. He's great. So I think you're noticing a pattern here. A lot of Platonism. And then the last guy, and this I won't do, he needs a video on his own. But Kurt Gödel. So Kurt Gödel is going to be very big in later videos. It's a little bit more complex, but he's definitely another big thinker that has influenced the way that I do philosophy as well. So let's begin. Let's talk about some philosophy. The way that I think about philosophy when I was studying it during my undergrad was I want to understand, what is it that we're looking for in philosophy, right? That's what I cared about the most. Oftentimes people are looking for, well, what are great questions? I could care less about what are great questions. I think great questions are meant for dialogue. But in terms of discovery, I think it's about finding out what is the goal of philosophy. What is it that I'm looking for in philosophy, right? That is the main question that I think is important when doing this. And so that's my mindset when doing philosophy. Well, the goal for me is the same goal that it was for Socrates, for Plato. It's about loving wisdom and pursuing the truth. That is the goal. That has to be in everyone's framework, in my perspective. If you're lacking truth in your system and you're lacking wisdom in your system, then I don't see the point in doing philosophy. I think that as philosophers, we have I'm not claiming to be a philosopher, but as, philosophers, I'll use that in a general sense. We care a lot about how is it that we're able to think? How is it that we're able to even talk about reality? We like talking about what is reality and all this stuff. But there's always a framework in which we do that. You can't just do that willy-nilly. There has to be a sort of framework by which you judge everything else. So the framework that I like to think about is the framework found in Socrates and Plato. Reality seems to be graded. There has to be something that explains what we're going to call intelligibility and the sensible. Right? So the sensible is that which we have sensations of. So, for example, I have a sensation of this pen right now. I'm touching it. I see it. Maybe if I click it, I can hear it. I'm not going to put it in my mouth, but I can taste it. I know I can. Those are all sensations. We use this in science, and we use this in basically everyday life. But then there's this other thing that's called intelligibility, or the intelligible. And the intelligible is a lot weirder. The intelligible is that which is what gives everything meaning. What the heck does that even mean, right? This we can get, right? This seems to be the thing that is most obvious to us, that we can sense, taste, hear, whatever. That's what it is. But the intelligible is a little bit more mysterious. Well, the intelligible deals with things like truth, the good, beauty. Why? Why would the intelligible deal with these sort of realities? Well, because the intelligible is seeking that which is not bounded by sensation, but it's seeking that which is above that. And in other senses, maybe a better way to say than above that is behind that. So I'll give you a good example. There is a pen in front of me right now. It has physical properties. It has a lot of properties. The property of being plastic, right? The property of being small. However, I can only recognize all of these properties in virtue of its intelligibility. Think about that. I see a pen, but now what gives me the ability to know that it's a pen? That is what we call the intelligibility of the pen. As of right now, things seem kind of weird, right? Okay, how are you getting to this thing called intelligibility? It just seems to be the same thing as just seeing the pen. What is this thing that you're saying that's behind the pen? I don't see anything behind the pen. And that's the point, right? There is not like a thing behind the pen, right? Because obviously I can't see it. But I am positing that there is something going on to permit me to see a pen. And that thing is what I'm going to call a form. Now, what a form is debated, but I don't care. I just want to say that it's a form. It's this thing that gives this meaning. Now, I'll give you a really great example of how we can see a form more clearly, how we can see the intelligibility kind of behind this thing here, right? That gives rise to me to understand that this is a pen. I have another pen. This is how we're going to do it. So we have one pen here, and we have another pen here. Well, this pen is not this pen. They write in different ink. This one I have to click it in order to write. This one I have to remove its cap in order to write with it. So far, they're nothing alike. But yet, this is the kicker here. And this is what's going to bridge everything that we've been talking about together in terms of the sensible and the intelligible. Although they're different, there is something that's allowing me to recognize that they're still pens. So you see two, but there's this one thing that unifies them. And what is that? Penness. The fact that it's a pen. Now, where this form is, well, it's obviously not here, but it seems like a pretty good inference to say, well, yeah, there is something that bridges these two differences together, and that is this principle of unification, if you want to call it, of penness. And we can do this with anything. So, I mean, I have a bunch of books here, right? Again, we got this book here, we got this book here. They got different content, different authors, different everything, but yet there's something that they share in common, and it's this idea of bookness. And we can just keep going on and on and on and saying that although we see two different things, those two different things have something in common, and that thing that they share in common is the form of that thing. How does this benefit us? What does this afford us? Why does any of this matter? Well, I'll tell you why I think it matters. I think it matters because if it's true that there is the sensible and there is the intelligible, then it seems like we're one step closer to talking about the immaterial. Well, like I said earlier, right? It seems like it's leading us to be able to say, well, there seems to be more to reality than merely the physical. There seems to be realities that are immaterial, non-spatial, timeless in a sense, right? It's not like the number 2 gets any older, but we could say that a pen can get older, right? It seems like we're kind of going up the scale, right? But the form of pen doesn't get older, but this particular pen does get older. This particular writing of the numerical 1 can get older, right? Because it could fade away, but the 1, right? The number 1 doesn't fade away. It seems to possess a reality that is more potent, a reality that is, I guess, more robust than that which is the sensible. So what this tells us is that there seems to be layers to reality, or in other words, a hierarchy in reality. So it seems like what's sensible seems to fade, but what is intelligible persists. And not just persists, it just subsists. It just is. And it cannot unbe, and it cannot be. It just is. So it seems like the higher up we go into this sort of layers of reality, the thing that is more robust is the thing that is changeless. And the things that are not, that are subject to change are the things that are sensible. And when we kind of think about this, it seems like the forms or, these intelligible structures of reality are the sort of groundwork or the blueprint behind everything we see. Now, if everything that I'm saying sounds confusing, I know that it is. It's obviously confusing. But I don't think it's confusing because it is ridiculous. I think it's confusing because we're going way past than that which we normally think about the world. We're seeing the world in a way for what it is. The world seems to be filled with these intelligible structures. The world seems to be filled of these patterns. And the material or the sensible world can only be in virtue of these patterns. right? So like I said, we're looking at the pen. If this pen lost its intelligibility, there's no pen. There's nothing. But if there is intelligibility, somehow it gives rise to my knowing the pen. It seems like reality expands in terms of a hierarchy. And the higher up you go into the ladder, the more robust, the more changeless, timeless, spaceless, and pure things get. And the more down the ladder that you go, the more things are moving. Things are constantly changing. But also, those things that are moving and changing seem to be reliant upon the changeless, the timeless, the immaterial, that which is the intelligible. So it's not as though they're, separated from each other. Rather, it's that this here, the sensible, cannot function without the intelligible. It's like the sensible, in order for it to be, relies on the intelligible. So, yeah, a lot that I said. This is probably going to be, we're going to probably make a couple more videos to kind of expand on what I'm doing right now. Because I know this is very difficult. So, we'll end it here. So take your time with the video. If you got to replay it, whatever, do that. If you can, comment something in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But let's begin a dialogue at this point, because this is only going to get tougher. And I hope that you guys can bear the excruciating path of philosophy here with me. Right? The ultimate goal here is to talk about God. And we will, but we have to build up. So, yeah, let's keep doing philosophy, and let's keep going this route and see where this takes us. So I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, take care, guys.